My name is Sofia Allen, and the message that ended my family came on an ordinary Tuesday lunch break. The hum of the vending machine was louder than usual. My phone buzzed once Dad's name on the screen, and then the words that hollowed me out. "We're cutting all ties. Don't come around ever again." Before I could blink, my sister reacted with a heart. Just a heart, the kind people use for cute puppies, not disowning someone. I stared at it, then typed one line back, "I'll pull my name from all loans tomorrow." By midnight, the family chat was burning. I used to believe family meant safety. That belief carried me through years of cleaning up other people's messes, of turning panic into payment plans. My father ran a small construction business that was always one contract away from success. My mother, Helen, had a talent for turning guilt into currency. Soft voice, trembling hands. "We just need a little help, honey." And Derek, my older brother, was the golden one. Every bad choice came wrapped in a promise. Just until next month, I was the steady one, the problem solver, the human credit card. When I was 24, they asked me to co-sign a small business loan. "It's just paperwork," Dad said. "You won't even notice." I signed. Then came another loan for the truck, then the line of credit for home repairs. The word temporary became our family anthem. Over time, the debt under my name looked less like help and more like chains. Outside, people saw the Allens as close-knit. Sunday dinners, matching sweaters, a picture-perfect family framed on the mantel. Inside, I felt like an unpaid employee keeping the lights on. The family group chat was my second inbox bills reminders, emotional blackmail, disguised as gratitude. "You're a lifesaver, Sophia." Then when I hesitated, "After all we've done for you." That night, after the text, I scrolled back through months of messages, hearts crying emojis, thank you gifts. I stopped at one from Derek sent years ago. "You always fix everything." I laughed out loud, but it sounded more like a choke. I looked around my apartment blazer still draped on the chair, half-eaten sandwich on the desk, and realized how quiet peace actually was. I thought about Liam, my boyfriend, and how he once told me, "You don't owe love to people who treat it like a loan." Back then, I brushed it off as cynicism. Now it sounded like prophecy. I closed. The chat exhaled and whispered, "This time I'm done paying." 2 days before that text, I'd already felt the ground shift. I was at work when a notification popped up from my credit monitoring app, another inquiry under my name. Business loan. Amount $80,000. My stomach turned cold. I hadn't applied for anything in over a year. That night, I drove straight to my parents' house. The porch light was on, the same one Dad always left for Derek, never for me. Mom opened the door with that soft, rehearsed smile. "You should have called, sweetheart." Inside, Dad sat in his recliner, the TV glowing off his glasses. Derek sprawled on the couch, phone in hand, barely glancing up. I held up my phone. $80,000 taken under my name. "You want to explain that?" Mom blinked, feigning confusion. "Oh, honey, your father just needed an extension for the business that's been failing for 5 years, I interrupted. "You used my credit again." Dad's jaw tightened. "Watch your tone. This family needed you. You're good with money. You can handle it." "You mean I can handle your mess," I said. Derek finally looked up, smirking. "You're being dramatic. It's not like we're strangers. We share blood, don't we?" I stared at him. "No, Derek, you share debt." The room went silent except for the TV hum. Mom pressed a hand to her chest. "You're twisting this. We've sacrificed everything for you." I laughed, sharp and tired. "No, Mom. You've spent everything. I just paid the bills." Dad stood, voice rising. "Don't come here blaming us for your selfish choices. You think moving in with that boyfriend makes you better than us?" Something inside me broke clean final. I felt the years of guilt of being the dependable one snap like a stretched wire. "You know what I said quietly. I'm done." Derek scoffed. "Done with what, carrying you?" I said. "All of you." Mom's eyes filled with tears on cue. "How can you say that to your family?" "Because it's the truth," I replied. I turned for the door, and behind me, Dad muttered, "Ungrateful." That word hit the same way it always had, like a stamp sealing a contract I never signed. The next day during my lunch break, his message arrived. "We're cutting all ties. Don't come around ever again." 5 minutes later, Derek reacted with a heart. I stared at the screen, the buzzing lights overhead, the taste of burnt coffee on my tongue. No anger, just clarity. I typed my reply slow and steady. I'll pull my name from all loans tomorrow. Then I locked my phone, sat back, and listened to the vending machine hum. By midnight, the family chat was chaos caps, lock accusations, guilt trips, voice messages. But I didn't answer. I closed my laptop, drew in a long breath, and thought, they think they've punished me. They just set me free. By morning, my phone looked like a crime scene. Dozens of missed calls, texts in all caps, voicemails from every family member. The group chat was still exploding. Mom, you're tearing this family apart. Dad, you'll regret this. Derek, hope your boyfriend knows he's next on your list. I didn't open a single one. Instead, I brewed coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and opened my laptop. The glow of the screen felt like a shield. I typed an email to my bank. I'd like to begin the process of removing myself as co-signer on all active family accounts. Then another to the insurance company, another to the credit bureau. My fingers moved steady, mechanical. Every click was a reclaiming, every form a quiet act of defiance. The printer started humming behind me. Page after page slid out loan contracts, statements, credit histories. I highlighted my signature lines in yellow, organized everything into folders. The air smelled like hot paper and ink, like something being purified. At work, Nora peeked over the cubicle wall. Rough day, I smiled thinly. Just fixing some paperwork. She tilted her head. You look calmer than I've ever seen you. Yeah, I said. I think I finally stopped drowning. That evening, Liam found me cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by folders. He crouched beside me, reading the titles, Loan Release, Cosigner, Removal Account Closure. They'll hate you for this, he said softly. They already do, I replied. He touched my hand. You don't have to do it alone. I know, I said, but I need to be the one to end it. The next day, I met with a loan officer at the downtown bank. His office was quiet, the air conditioning whispering. I slid the folder across his desk. I'd like to remove myself from every loan under the Allen family business and personal accounts, I said. He skimmed the papers, brows lifting. That's quite a list. I know. It may take a few days. The process isn't simple. I've done harder things, I told him. He studied me for a long moment. You sure about this? Families can ruin you too, I said. The sound of his stamp echoed in the small room like a gavel. For a second, I closed my eyes and just listened. It didn't sound like loss. It sounded like freedom. That night, I drove home through steady rain. The windshield wipers kept rhythm with my pulse. My phone buzzed in the passenger seat, Mom again, then Dad, then Derek. I turned the phone face down and let it ring. When I pulled into my parking lot, the city lights reflected off the wet pavement like broken glass. I sat there for a while, engine ticking, thinking about every version of myself that had said yes when she wanted to say no. Inside the apartment smelled like coffee and wet asphalt. I dropped the folders on the counter, poured a glass of water, and felt the smallest flicker of peace. The texts were still coming in, but they no longer sounded like authority. They sounded like panic. And for the first time, I realized chaos was just the sound of them losing control. 3 days later, they stopped pretending to be victims and started showing up. It was Saturday morning. Rain had just broken, leaving the air damp and silver. I'd been on the balcony with a cup of coffee when the buzzer sounded 2 short rings. Liam was still half asleep. I checked the camera feed and froze. My brother Derek stood outside the gate wearing a wrinkled suit jacket like armor. Behind him, our parents hovered. Mom held a folder. Dad's jaw was locked so tight the vein on his temple pulsed. I opened the door only halfway. You shouldn't be here. Derek smiled like a salesman. We just want to talk soft. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic, I repeated. You forged my name on an $80,000 loan. Dad's tone snapped. Watch your mouth. You're still our daughter. Funny I said you didn't sound so sure when you texted me to never come back. Mom stepped forward, voice trembling just enough to sound practiced. Honey, your father was angry. We all were. Families fight. But this, she held up the folder, this isn't how we fix things. Liam appeared beside me, quiet, solid. You need to leave, he said evenly. Dad ignored him, eyes locked on me. You think cutting ties makes you strong? You're destroying us, Sophia. The business is collapsing. We can't refinance without you. My chest tightened, but not from guilt, just from the weight of déjà vu. I'd heard these lines before word for word. Then maybe I said you should have learned to stand without my credit. Derek's calm facade cracked. You think you're better than us? Because you have a job. Because you date someone with money. Liam's voice stayed even. You're crossing a line. Stay out of this. Derek snapped. I turned fully toward him. You don't get to lecture me about lines. You crossed every one when you used me to keep your life afloat. He laughed ugly and desperate. Oh, please. You loved being the hero. Don't pretend you didn't enjoy the praise. That one landed. Because once he'd been right. Once I had loved being the dependable one, the one who fixed things. I'd built my worth around being needed. But that love had rotted into resentment. I looked him dead in the eye. You're right, Derek. I did like saving you. But heroes stop showing up when they realize the people they're saving are the villains. His smirk faltered. Mom inhaled sharply. Dad's voice came low, dangerous. This isn't over. You'll regret humiliating your family. I felt my pulse steady. The only thing I regret, I said, is not walking away sooner. Liam reached for my hand, and together we closed the door. The sound of it clicking shut felt heavier than any slam. Outside, someone pounded once, then silence. For hours, the house stayed quiet. Then the emails started. A message from my father's lawyer, potential breach of co-signer responsibility. Immediate contact requested. One from the business bank account frozen pending verification. And finally, from Derek. You've ruined everything. Are you happy now? I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I opened the folder of stamped papers, proof that I'd already been released from every obligation. My name was clean. The next morning, I walked into the same bank. The loan officer recognized me, nodded politely. Everything went through, he said. You're officially off the accounts. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Thank you. As I turned to leave, I caught my reflection in the glass door. Same blazer, same posture, but something different in my eyes. Stillness. Outside, the sky had cleared. I called a cab, but before it arrived, my phone buzzed again. Mom's voice message. Sophia, please. You don't understand what you're doing. We can't survive this. You're punishing us for mistakes we've already paid for. I hit play once more just to make sure I'd heard her right. Punishing them. They drained my credit, my savings, my sanity, and the moment I said no, I became the villain. It would have been funny if it didn't hurt so much. I forwarded the voicemail to my attorney, then blocked the number. That night, Liam cooked pasta. The apartment smelled like garlic and tomato. We ate in silence until he asked, "How does it feel?" I took a slow sip of wine, like breathing after years underwater. He smiled softly. "You look lighter." I wanted to believe that. But part of me still waited for the next blow, and it came sooner than I expected. The next afternoon, Nora from work messaged me, "Someone's waiting for you in the lobby." I stepped out of the elevator, heart hammering. Mom was there again, same folder, same trembling hands. "Honey," she said, standing too quickly, "please, sit with me." "I'm at work," I replied. "It'll take a minute." She opened the folder copies of the same documents I'd signed. "We spoke to a lawyer. He said you might still be liable. There are loopholes, but if you cooperate, we can fix it." I stared at her. "You went through my personal files," she hesitated. "We kept copies when you lived at home, just in case." The world tilted. "That's not just invasive," I said. "It's illegal." Her face hardened. "Don't be dramatic, Sophia. You're making this harder than it needs to be." I laughed sharp. "You mean harder than you need it to be?" I stood up. "We're done here." She reached for my arm. "You can't keep doing this. I already did." I walked away. My hands shook as the elevator doors closed, but my voice in my head stayed steady. They can't touch me anymore. That night I changed every password bank email credit. Every door they'd ever had a key to locked. The following week, silence fell. No calls, no messages, even the group chat died. For a while it felt too quiet, like the pause before a storm. Then the storm arrived. An email from a law firm with a name designed to intimidate Miller and Hastings Legal Group. Subject notice of potential financial obligation. I opened it. Vague language, no details, just enough to scare. I smiled. My attorney had already confirmed everything was finalized. They had nothing left. I replied with one line, "There will be no further contact. Send." That night, Liam and I toasted with cheap wine. To the end of chaos, he said. To the beginning of peace, I answered. For the first time, I believed it. But peace doesn't always announce itself quietly. Sometimes it comes disguised as fallout. A week later, a cousin messaged me on social media, "Hey, your mom's worried about you, says you're struggling." Then a woman from our old church texted, "Saw your dad at the store. He said you're unstable. Everyone's praying for you." I laughed, really laughed. The same people who'd branded me ungrateful were now painting me as broken. I blocked them all. That night, lying beside Liam, I realized something. They couldn't hurt me financially anymore, so they were trying to rewrite the story. But even that failed, because the people who mattered knew the truth. I turned toward him and whispered, "They lost their hold." He brushed his thumb over my cheek. "Then stop looking back." I did. The next morning, sunlight filled the room. My phone buzzed with one final message from an unknown number. "We saw you on the company site. Congratulations on your promotion. We're glad you're doing well." No name. But I knew. I deleted it without opening the photo attached. And that's when I felt it fully, the absence of fear. Not anger, not revenge, just peace. Winter turned to early spring before I noticed the quiet had stopped feeling strange. The mornings came soft and slow the way they're supposed to. I'd wake before my alarm brew coffee and listen to the city waking up, no buzzing phone, no knot in my stomach. My paycheck stretched the whole month for once. It felt foreign, almost guilty, to have money that belonged only to me. Weeks later, I heard through a mutual contact, Aunt Lorraine, the family's self-appointed messenger, that the Allens' house was listed for sale, pre-foreclosure. She texted a link like she was passing gossip, not ruin. I clicked it anyway. Photos of empty rooms, peeling wallpaper, and a for sale sign tilted in their front yard filled the screen. I waited for the guilt to hit. It didn't. What I felt instead was something gentler, quieter, a sort of mourning for the person I used to be, the daughter who thought love meant rescuing people who refused to swim. That evening, Liam found me on the couch, laptop still open to the listing. "They're losing the house," I said. He sat beside me, took the laptop from my hands, closed it. "It's not your job to save what they built on your back." I looked at him. "It's just... that house was everything to them, and nothing to you," he said softly. Later that night, as I brushed my teeth, an old memory surfaced, Dad writing, "You keep us together" on a birthday card when I was 16. Back then, it felt like praise. Now it felt like a warning. Glue doesn't last forever. It cracks when it's stretched too thin. A few days later, an email arrived from my mother. Subject line, "Please read." The tone was almost tender. She wrote that Dad's health was failing, that they just needed a little help to get back on their feet. She ended it with, "You're all we have left." For a moment, I almost replied. The old reflex kicked in, the urge to fix, to heal. But I stopped myself. Instead, I opened a new tab and donated the amount she'd asked for to a nonprofit that helped women escape financial abuse. Then I deleted her email. When I told Liam, he smiled. "You didn't destroy them," he said. "You just stopped saving them." I nodded, breathing in the quiet. And that's the only revenge that lasts. The next weekend, we walked through a park lined with blooming trees. The air smelled like rain and lilac. I watched sunlight spill through the branches, and for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the next crisis. I wasn't the glue anymore. I was the break. Spring settled in quietly the way peace does when it stops asking permission. The windows in our new apartment stayed open most days. The smell of coffee and rain mixed with the hum of traffic below. Liam cooked breakfast while I answered work emails from the balcony's sunlight on my hands. It wasn't extravagant, but it was hours paid for with no guilt attached. Sometimes I'd catch myself listening for the sound of my phone, expecting the old chime of crisis. It never came. And that silence, the one that used to scare me, had become proof that I'd finally broken the pattern. One night, as the city lights blinked like soft stars, Liam asked, "Do you ever miss them?" I thought for a long moment. I miss who I tried to be for them, but I don't miss them. He smiled. "Then you're free." I looked out at the skyline and whispered to myself, sometimes peace costs everything you thought was love, but it's worth it. If you've ever had to walk away from the people who kept you small just to feel whole again, you're not alone. Share your story below. And hit subscribe so you don't miss the next story that reminds you sometimes the quietest revenge is finally living well.